No way! The SEC just approved the Bitcoin ETF! We've been waiting for this for so long! The ETF was approved. Crypto to the moon! The bull run is back! We fucking did it, man. Wait a second. Gary Gensler just tweeted that the SEC Twitter account was compromised. An unauthorized tweet was posted. The SEC has not approved the listing and trading of spot Bitcoin exchange traded products. Bro, what the
GM, and welcome back to the channel. In this one, taking a look at the craziness unfolding in the markets right now and the signal coming out of all of this noise. As you would have seen, and from the intro, the SEC with the false approval from some form of hacker of their accounts saying that the ETF was approved. We'll go into the details in just a sec, but it has been absolutely hysterical and the most crypto thing possible for the kind of outcomes that have happened here. Because what we have here is a hack on the dawn of an ETF approval, whilst the full financial world has its eyes on the SEC, on Gensler, and what happens with this ETF. And now it looks like he's probably going to get the sack after this. I mean, it's pretty untenable, the position, after you have a false announcement like that come from such a major account. And as you can see, this is just a 30-minute chart for Bitcoin. It's been absolutely insane this week. We knew it was going to be volatile and choppy, but some of these swings have been outrageous. Like, look at this one. So from top to bottom here, over the span of not that long, to be honest with you, what is it, like 1 day, 6 hours, Bitcoin moving 10%. Then we had the ETF false approval. So the signal in the market was ETF approval being kind of bullish here, the fact that we spiked up, but we did get a sell the news as well. 6% move there in just a 30-minute candle. So what it seemed like was we have an instant spike and a dump down. So in my kind of what the heck's going on here, those who were ready to sell the news, they had the news, even though it was incorrect. The news came and they did sell said news. So I'm kind of thinking now there's no chips on the table from the sell side for the actual ETF real approval when it does come, because they would have sold that false announcement maybe via algorithms, etc., or quickly clicking the buttons as they were prepared for it. We're starting to see in the order books as well some dumpage continue. So this was just a few minutes ago. Binance spot market on BTC, 800 Bitcoins were dumped in a 5-minute span. And this was the recent little wick down here to 45.1. Bitcoin currently at 45.400. And I mean, if you gave us that a few days back, we would have snatched your hand off for 45K going into the ETF approval. So this, of course, now is global news. So this is the BBC reporting on the false headlines coming from the Securities and Exchange Commission. Total egg on face for Gensler. So that's BBC in the UK. Financial Times again. Bitcoin swings sharply after false claim that the SEC approved the ETFs. And CNBC here with the ETF news. The Securities and Exchange Commission said Tuesday afternoon that the announcement about a Bitcoin exchange traded fund on social media was incorrect. So again, untenable position for Gensler. For those of you who haven't yet seen the fake or false approval, here it is. So a bit of a wordsmith, the person who put this one together, because it does look highly professional. Today, the SEC grants approval for Bitcoin ETFs for listing on all registered national securities exchanges. The approved Bitcoin ETFs will be subject to ongoing surveillance and compliance measures to ensure continued investor protection. Does sound a lot like something Gensler would post. Many people were actually speculating, was this maybe in the drafts or was it scheduled to go out at a certain time, but it was a day early, etc. But we have found out that it was due to a security issue, which is rather ironic. We have back in October, which was hashtag Cybersecurity Awareness Month, according to the SEC and Gary here. He said, remember to use strong passwords and passphrases and set up multi-factor authentication. So the guy in charge of Securities and Exchange Commission getting himself in a pickle security wise. So his Twitter feed personally now a bit of a laughing stock. If you go into any of the comments under these, 24 million views on this one with I've been compromised. I mean, if you've got a couple minutes spare, just go through some of the comments under this. You will get certainly at least a good few laughs. So what was the reason for this hacking of the account of the SEC? Well, it looks like it was due to a SIM swap, as X and Elon Musk were hot on this one to find out who the culprits were behind this. So a SIM swap, or as they say, due to an unidentified individual obtaining control over a phone number associated with the SEC. So just imagine this here. Antum said, how does the SEC even get hacked? It's the SEC. Bro, is the US Treasury even safe? And then CL with a reply here, imagine phoning up T-Mobile and saying, yep, my name is Gary Gensler. Please can I reset my phone number here as I've lost my SIM card. And then T-Mobile giving you the green light to go ahead and do that swap. So one of the few things we have got answered today, it was that the SEC does use two-factor authentication via SMS. Now, in some further twists and turns for the ETF being approved, and I mean, it's going to be approved today, I would expect, because stuff like this is happening. BlackRock have lowered their fees from 0.3%, as we announced yesterday, down to 0.25% and just 0.12% on the first $5 billion of flow. So they've got a promo on for that first $5 billion worth of flows in at 0.12% only, and then the fee 0.25% from then out. Pretty crazy to see everyone fighting for the market share of the ETFs. And as this happened as well, literally just after this, ARK has also cut theirs down to 0.21% and Bitwise to 0.2%. So at this point, I can't see for the life of me why you would be bearish. We can see that BlackRock has a lot of clients at my disposal. They're going to be onboarding them like crazy, and the ETF providers themselves are all scrambling to get the biggest AUM, assets under management, the quickest, so they can be seen as that #1 go-to provider. Now up on the day and more signal in the noise, Ethereum up 6.9% against BTC, so people are now suggesting that the market has shown its hand. Byzantine General here. So he says, lucky for the people who did not get liquidated. More info. 1. Bitcoin pumped as soon as the fake news dropped. So likely on the approval, we do get an additional pump to come. ETH also pumped, but not as much. But after Bitcoin dumps, ETH starts to outperform significantly. So this is why we're saying potentially this will show its hand, that Ethereum is the next move. And that is a narrative we're seeing being spun up here. But at the moment, these are previous resistance levels we mapped out for the last cycle. And you can see resistances 1, 2, and 3, and then holy shit at the top, which I do not think we're ever going to hit, to be honest with you. But we are still below resistance number 2 there, and ETH has looked exceptionally weak. So although ETH has bounced here, and it's up from like 0.47, I think, 48, from 48s to 52s, a nice bounce up here, but is it still following this downward trajectory or not? We'll wait to see. I would like to see it reclaim these resistance here. This will be at 0.055, so 5.5 million Satoshi. So I think the kind of victory laps around ETH are a little bit premature at this moment in time, but if ETH can have a sustained rally, we'll see the altcoin market go absolutely bonkers. But final thing to finish off on here, in terms of the ETH thesis, due to the fact there's so many L2s now and they're all vying for the same kind of pools of capital, there's so many tokens you can buy, different L2 exposures, etc. And we're seeing all these modular developments take place. We're seeing EVM over on Solana, all these cool different happenings. It is just drawing attention from ETH and capital from ETH overall. So highly unlikely we ever do get to retest the Pico top for ETH BTC. As in my opinion, you're likely to see people start to play the more beta plays, you know, Optimism, Arbitrum, etc., etc. You can run through the list, Metis, and all of those other coins. And that essentially will just draw capital and the kind of potential pump away from ETH. So let me know how you're positioned going into the ETF approval, likely coming later on today. Are you balls to the wall long? Are you leveraged to the tits? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Peace.